no doubt this is going to raise some controversy over here, but if you hear me out, then you might see where I'm coming from. Now, on the whole, the prospects of the X-Men finally being in the MCU is all exciting news, as this could potentially open up brand new stories that have yet to be adapted for the big screen. And especially when it comes down to seeing some brand new characters that have yet to be adapted, and even some villains. According to some recent report, it does appear that they do already have plans for Magneto's return into the X-Men franchise. And bear this in mind, this recent article comes courtesy of Showbiz Cheat Sheet, but whether they are a reliable source or not, you be the judge on that one. But according to their sources, apparently the plans for Magneto in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that he is going to start off as a villain. But we'll see Magneto facing off against both the X-Men and the Avengers, which I'm believing this is probably where the rough idea of ultimatum comes into play. Then as time goes by, we will get to see a swift redemption for Magneto, and that he will develop more of a heroic role, which will then plant the seeds for the inevitable Secret Wars film, in which we'll have Magneto leading the charge with the heroes against Doctor Doom. And in terms of those ideas, there's nothing inherently wrong about them at all. As a matter of fact, I do think that this is a pretty good angle for Magneto. Although, at least on paper, because honestly, I don't think we really need Magneto in the MCU just yet. Yeah, I know that this is a massive bold statement to say, considering that Magneto is such a massive staple within the X-Men franchise at this point. And sure, he is the X-Men villain, but honestly, I do feel like in a similar fashion to Wolverine, I do sense a bit of Magneto fatigue in that he has been overused a little too much. And instead, I do feel like the MCU should focus on other characters and flesh them out even further, than recycling the likes of Wolverine and Magneto again, and giving them top billing every time. I'm not saying that you can't use Magneto at all, because I do understand that he and Professor X are one and the same, and that you can't have one without the other type of thing. But I suppose you can explore the friendship between Charles Xavier and Erik before they become Professor X and Magneto, sort of in mini flashbacks. Because if you're going to reintroduce Magneto right off the gate, then I do feel like you're pretty much recycling everything from the previous X-Men movies. Speaking of repeating everything from the previous films, even the idea of Magneto going from a villain to a hero seems pretty much the exact same again. Do get that Magneto has always been somewhat of a grey character. Most people seem to misunderstand is that it took Magneto a lot of years to actually get to that point, and in reality from the comics, Erik is pretty twisted and insane with his beliefs. Like, even more so than how he's depicted in the movies. And with that in mind, if they really want to reintroduce Magneto in the MCU as soon as possible, then I would suggest they should just maintain him as a villain for the foreseeable future. Because again, it did take Magneto a lot of time to actually get to that point of being somewhat of an anti-hero. And the more you really think about this, when was the last time we even had Magneto as a straight up antagonist for any of the X-Men movies? Ever since X-Men The Last Stand, we really haven't seen Magneto being a villain, but rather being a reluctant ally of sorts. And yeah, you can point at X-Men Apocalypse, but first and foremost, Erik was mostly influenced by Apocalypse's promises. But by the end, he still had a change of heart and teamed up with the X-Men when all was said and done. And if we must be honest, X-Men Apocalypse is really shit, and I'm pretty sure everyone wants to forget about this movie by now. But why I keep saying that we really don't need Magneto into the MCU thus far is because Magneto has been represented very well both times, and yet there are plenty of X-Men films out there that have yet to be treated properly or even been brought up onto the big screen yet. And I do have ideas on where to take the X-Men in the MCU, as well as some of the films they could just introduce right out of the gate, but I'll save that for another video. But by no means am I trying to diss Magneto, because quite frankly, I do really love the character of Erik Lehnsherr. But like how I feel with Wolverine, I do feel as if Magneto needs to take a huge step back. So that when we finally do get to see Magneto in the MCU properly, then I do feel like it will be all the more exciting and impactful for all of us. How do you personally feel about Magneto joining the MCU? Do you think Erik Lehnsherr deserves a bit of a break, or do you think that he has to come back sooner rather than later? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. take care and have a good one.